if you're a person that always gets in and tries to pull the people you love out of the river they're in, or you try to get out of the river yourself if you're in it from unforeseen circumstances, like you don't really give up easily, you in those times are in survival, and you just don't quit, you don't give up, you don't surrender until you've exhausted every single option there is to to try to help yourself or help those you love. You don't quit until every stone is unturned. And if you're like that, you know what I'm saying. You just have grit. And you know what? If you're like that, people know that about you. When, they know they can count on you. They know that you show up. They know that you're reliable. And of course, when bad things are happening to those we love, or even to yourself, you just got to do what you got to do. You don't ever want there to be any regrets, but you want to do it from a space of wholeness. Because if you're doing it for some other reason, like to have people need you, or to help people that don't reciprocate, to give yourself up to people that are just takers, that's on you, because that uses you up. You get caught up in people's wood chipper. People got to show up for themselves too. And you just can't help run around helping people that aren't available to reciprocate to you. I mean, knock yourself out and do it. That was my experience. And people that aren't available, they're never going to do for you what you do for them. And you even have to ask yourself if you're really available, if you're really hanging out with people that are just taking from you, that people that don't give back. You can't take an unhappy, miserable person that's doing things that putting them in the river of their life, the stormy waters of their life, but they don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to get themselves out of the river either. Maybe they're not even asking for help, and you're over there needing to be needed, and you're throwing yourself in their river. And you know what happens when you try to rescue an animal drowning in a river? They're going to scratch and claw you, and they're going to try to get on top of your head. And guess what? You're going to drown, and they're probably going to drown too. Somebody's got to want to get themselves out of their own dysfunction. And you got to want to get yourself out of your own dysfunction too. And I know that is hard. I know that's, it's confusing when you're maybe you're a highly sensitive person, and because you've come a long way in your life and you've learned a lot of things and you've done a lot of healing, and you can get better, and you've gotten better, you've gotten stronger, you want to share your love, you want to share your gifts, but all you have around you is people that actually haven't made the sacrifices to do their own work, to learn how to heal, to be vulnerable, to be honest, to have the openness and the willingness to change their behaviors, change their choices, upgrade themselves, invest money in their own healing, seek professional help. If you've done all those things, yet you're all still surrounded around people that aren't willing to do those things, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? I mean, I think we all kind of come to this point. We learn all these things, we heal all these things, we want to share our love with people, we want to be useful and helpful and have our strength, our experience, strength, and hope help others. It's just it's a natural phenomenon of being human, especially when you know because you've come out the other side, or you have compassion, you have empathy, you can feel other people's pain because you felt your own pain. It takes something to be able to perceive if people are really open or if they're just still being a victim. They're closed, they're in that wounded part of themselves. They really don't want to become open to learning about what they're doing that's hurting themselves. And so when you go and you try to fix someone, there's a predictable outcome to that, which is they typically resist. People who actually don't want to be changed. If they wanted to change, they would change themselves. So if you get caught up in trying to fix someone, in trying to change someone that's closed, they're not desperate. They're not open. They're not willing. I mean, you got to ask yourself, you know, what's that like for you when you run into somebody and they've tried to change you in the past? They want you to become something other than who you are, something other than what you're being. They want to interrupt or maybe speed you up too quickly. Maybe you're not ready. It's just like giving and receiving gifts. If you're always the giver, then you have to get what it's like when somebody says no, when you say no, or they say no. You just got to let people be with how they are. You don't reach towards a person that's closed and and causing all kinds of destruction. It's really about waiting and knowing that if they need you, they're going to reach to you. If they want you in their life, if they really want to connect to you, you let them reach to you. And you do this out of self-care, out of self-love, out of wholeness. When you heal needing to be needed, then you don't need to go abandon yourself to try to get somebody to take what it is that you're offering. It's like in those moments of self-abandonment, people lose respect for you. When you're desperately throwing yourself at the feet of others, you're allowing them to treat you like a doormat. The only person that is responsible for that whole dynamic is you. You have to wonder why we would settle for crumbs, why we would settle for the behavior, the unloving behavior usually, of somebody who's not available, who's not open. When we do this, it causes a lot of conflict inside, a lot of anxiety inside our internal navigation system that's trying to tell us to stop doing that because the person is not open. When we're throwing ourselves at others, think about that. If you've done that, how that makes you feel. You think it's because they're kind of rejecting you, rejecting your offering that you're kind of tossing at them to see if they'll take it. And they're closed, so they're not going to take it. But then we take that personally, but there's actually an internal reaction to that. And we think it's because they've rejected our offering, but it isn't. It's because we've rejected ourselves. That bad feeling has come from rejecting ourselves, from abandoning ourselves, from being desperate enough to try to look for something, to need ourselves outside of ourselves, somebody that's closed, which is just leads to a predictable outcome, which is pain. And we make up all kinds of stories that it's the other person's fault about how we feel so bad about ourselves. But it's what we're doing to ourselves. unless somebody's reaching towards us, and that's hard to make that transition. If somebody's reaching towards us, that's one thing. They want us, they want our help. But if they're not and we're throwing ourselves at them, we have to ask ourselves, do we really want ourselves? Because when you choose yourself and you know that you have precious pearls and you're not supposed to cast them before swines, you're supposed to, we're supposed to be casting them with people that can reciprocate, and they have precious pearls too, and they're whole and we're whole, and we're just sharing our love with other people. We're not looking to get something or give something that fills someone up. People are already in reciprocal relationships. They have something to share. They have love to share. And if you're not whole enough where you have love to share, when you're giving yourself up for all the wrong reasons, you're offering yourself to get something, which is for all the wrong reasons. You need to pause and learn to give to yourself. Give to yourself what you're giving to others. It's a journey. It's a long journey to become truly whole. And when you become whole like this, you are full inside, and you actually don't need other people to need you. You don't need other people to approve of you. You just be still in this wholeness, and you wait. You wait to see what comes to you. When you change dynamics in relationships like this, in my experience, from a giver and a taker, you give, you deplete yourself, and you get all upset because it's empty, and you've abandoned yourself for other people's love or approval or whatever. So that's really painful. When you get tired of doing that, then you learn to give to yourself, and you learn to become whole. And there's a phenomenon that occurs when you do this, because you become at peace. You don't have that anxiety anymore, because in this very moment you have yourself. And when you have yourself like this, you have an innate connection to universal wisdom, to wholeness. And this allows you to navigate. And when you become committed to listening when you're going to go do something or connect to someone, and you start feeling bad, that you listen, you see what it is that you're doing or you're about to do, and you just become open to learning about this. And you'll find that when you choose yourself first and you realize you're about to do something that you've done in the past, it makes you feel horrible and it never works out, that when you choose yourself, you become happy, you become whole, you become patient for people to show up that are different than what you've had in the past. And it may take time if all you've had is dysfunctional relationships, the give and the take thing. It takes time to learn how to develop these new types of connections, and you may need a time to heal. And I know that was true for me. It took me a couple years, and I had to learn to not be lonely just by myself. And I've done that, which was, it's an extraordinary thing. You can do this. And then your relationships become healthier because your relationship with yourself is healthy. You don't do things for all the wrong reasons anymore. And you let people go that never really, had your best interest, or they're just not available. And they could come back, or they could be wondering what you're doing. And then they could, you could show them what you've been doing, and you could connect them to those resources. And then you can share your journey with each other. I mean, that's ideal. You don't stop loving people, even if you're loving them from a distance, but you choose yourself first. And in this, you get a quality of life that you've never had before. You get peace. It brings you present in the moment, because when you're in the moment with your wholeness, you become more interested in who you are, in your gifts, in the things that are important to you. And the more that you do these things within yourself, the happier you become, the more whole you become as you discover on this soul's journey these true innate gifts that you have inside of you that are unique. And when you start sharing those with yourself, and you start finding people that you have these common interests with, it's the best investment you could ever make, because you become calm inside. You become whole inside. You become happy, and you experience a joy that you've never had before, that doesn't come from the outside, that doesn't come from other people. And no one can ever take this from you. No one can ever take this peace and wholeness from you. It really is the best investment that you can make in yourself. And I really loved having this conversation today. Let me know what you're thinking about and what you're experiencing, and questions in the comments. And I look forward to sharing with you in the next video. Until then, take good care.